was about the 6th hour. Now the 6th hour, according to the record in the Bible, would have been 12 in the day, midday, hot sun temperature. Because they would have started counting from 6 in the morning as the first hour and continue on till 12 in the daytime, being the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Somebody say, this is significant. Now the woman that is recorded here, she is from a place called Samaria. Samaria is thought to be insignificant. Samaria is a place in the Bible that no one wanted to pass through. Is there anywhere you could think of in Trinidad that no one wants to go to? It's one of those places. One of those places everybody will take a detour and get around and pass around instead of passing through that place. But Jesus took the time to go to a place that people saw as insignificant. I want you to know tonight that if you believe you are insignificant, or men have told you that you are insignificant, Jesus is taking the time tonight to come to you. So he went to a place called Samaria to draw water. Jesus said unto her, the woman, give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away to the city to buy meat. Then said the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that thou, being a Jew, askest a drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? Now the Jews of that time hated the Samaritans. Why? Because the Samaritans was a group, a racial group, that was discriminated by the Jews. The Jews thought themselves to be better. The Jews thought themselves to be of a higher class. And so if they saw a Samaritan, they despised them, hated them, and ridiculed them. So how it is that Jesus could even speak to a woman from Samaria who him, Jesus, being a Jew, ought to hate. He said, how is it that you ask a drink of me? And even worse, I'm a woman. Men of that time were not even allowed to speak to women in a public domain. Maybe we should bring that back. For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Next verse. Jesus answered and said unto her, if thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that said to thee, give me to drink, thou would have said or asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. In this passage, we find that this woman is at a well, and she's brought to the well a bucket, a jar, because she needs a bucket to be able to fill some water. Now I know now we have intricate systems where water transverses across the country known as wassa. But back then in that time, they didn't have any pipes or any lines to carry water to where they lived. Somewhat like how Nick would have mentioned that in his testimony. He had to go to the land that he was planting. He had to travel all that way to plant and then come back. This woman traveled from a house to the well because she needed to get some water. And if she didn't get this water, she wouldn't be able to wash her clothes. She wouldn't be able to cook. She wouldn't be able to drink. She wouldn't be able to survive. How many of you know water is a necessity for living? Can you live without water? You could drink how many soft drinks you want. You will still need water. The body craves for water. The body is made up 70% of water. So she needs to go to the well. She needs to take a bucket. Because without a bucket, she can't carry the water. I know some of us like to carry water in our hands, but it won't take us very far. So she brings the bucket, dips it into the well every day, around 12 in the day. And then she carries this bucket of water back to her home. And everywhere that she needs to use this water, she pours into whatever she has to use it for. She needs to bathe, she pours it. She needs to cook, she pours it. Whatever she has to do, she pours out the water until it is empty. And when it's empty, she now has to return again to the well, the dip of the well. The water in the well provides for a need that she has. The need is genuine and the need is real. She needs the water, so she must go to the well. She needs to get a drink. But this day, she meets a man called Jesus. And Jesus says to her, instead of taking a drink for yourself, give a drink to me. And she has a tough decision to make, because Jesus doesn't have a bucket. How could he not have a bucket and he want water? He doesn't have a bucket and he wants from her bucket. So now she has to decide whether she will give him a drink of the water. And while pondering they end up into a conversation about living water. Jesus says to her, hey, this well gives water for just until the bucket is empty. But I can give you water that will never run out. But I want to pose a question to you tonight. What are the wells that you are dipping out of? You see, the woman has a right need, and she goes to the right well. For the need of water, the well provides water. But for different needs, there are different wells that we ought to go to. And some of us have been dipping from wells that cannot provide for our needs. The need is genuine, the need is right, but the well that we are dipping from can never supply the need that we have. So we are dipping and we are going on our way, but we are never satisfied because we are going to the wrong well. Some of us, we need more love in our life, but we are going and dipping from the well of hatred. And guess what? When we dip from this well of hatred, all that we can pour into our family is hatred. All that we can pour into our jobs is hatred. All that we can give out is what is in the bucket. So my question tonight to you is, what bucket are you carrying full of what? What well are you dipping from? Some of us, we're dipping from the well of worry, when we need to instead dip from the well of hope. And when you dip from the well of worry, all you can share is worry. So let's switch from the well of worry to a well of hope. Some of us need patience, but instead we're dipping from a well of anger. So now when situations get tough, all we can do is react out of haste, but we have no patience to give because our bucket is filled with anger. Some of us are dipping from the well of bad mind. Only bad mind. I hate them. Watch what they do. Watch what they say. Watch how they turn my back. And all we pour in is bad mind. Instead, when we should be dipping from the well of mercy, saying we forgive, we move on, let's heal, let's go together. So what well are you dipping out of? You can only pour out of the bucket what you have dipped into at the well. This passage goes on to tell us that this woman, in verse 16 to verse 18, it says that this woman also had a different well that she was dipping into. Jesus said to her, go call thy husband and come here. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said unto her, thou hast well said that you have no husband. For thou hast had 5 husbands. Wow! And he whom you now hast is not even your own husband. She's been through 4 divorces and is currently in an adulterous relationship. And each one of these relationships served as a well that she was dipping out of to fill a need that could never be filled. Valentine's Day just went this Friday, and there were so many running around to different wells trying to satisfy the need for love, when the only source and the only well that could fulfill the need for love is God himself. For God is love, and God created us in love, and we ought to give love, but we can't give love if the bucket we're dipping out of can never satisfy us. So every husband was a well, and he couldn't satisfy, so she had to go to the next one, and then 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 the next one. But this day she met a man who can make a difference. So she was at the well now with this bucket. And the bucket as I said before, can only give until it is empty. Every time the bucket is empty, we have to return to the well to dip again. Every time it's empty, we have to return to the well and dip again. But tonight's message is, I am the source. So look at what Jesus says to her. If you knew who you were talking to, if you realized that you were speaking to the source of all living water, you would have asked of living water. You see, what Jesus is trying to say is look away from the well, because while you are coming to the well, I am the well, and there is living water stirring up inside of me that will never run out. So what God is saying is that there's not a need for a bigger bucket. See, we think that we need a bigger bucket. We think that we need more pay. We think that we need a better job. We think that we need a better wife. We think that we need better children, better parents, a better background. We think that we need a bigger bucket to be able to go about meeting the needs that we have. But Jesus is not saying, he never said to her, look how small your bucket is, get a bigger jar. Because if you get a bigger jar, it will just last you 1 day longer. If you get up into a different relationship, it might just last you 3 days longer. If you change to another husband, it might just last 4 days longer. If you get a promotion, it might just last 5 days longer. But guess what? No matter how big the bucket gets, no matter how big the bank account gets, no matter how much you earn for a bigger bucket, it will always get empty. But Jesus is saying to each one of you tonight, put down the bucket and let's get to the source of it all. Because you see, when you're tapped into the tap, there is no limit to how much water you can pour into your bucket. So he's saying it's time to tap in. It's time to tap into the source, because Jesus is the source and he's here tonight to fill you to the overflow. Amen. So I am the source. What you seek and the well you will not find. It's time to tap into the source. This woman had to get connected to the source. Tonight God is saying the same exact thing to you. Get connected to the source. It's time to stop running around to different wells trying to meet the needs that you have. God can meet it. God can supply it. And he's a source that will never ever run out. Nick testified tonight that there were setbacks in his life, but he didn't trust his bank account. He didn't trust what he could have gained, but he trusted the one named Jesus to provide for every need. So he said, Jesus, be the source, and I'm tapping in to the God that never runs out. So you need more. Don't change the bucket. Change the source. Amen. It preaches well for me to come tonight and say, expand your capacity. You need more. You need a bigger bucket. It sounds good. It rolls up the tongue and I could jump about preaching. Get a bigger bucket. Grow. Get wider. Expand. But God is saying, leave the bucket behind. Tap in to the source. Amen. So this woman taps into the source of Jesus Christ. And as we see in verse 28 to 29, now that she taps in, she moves from having to come to the well. Now that she's tapped into the source, she becomes the source. Look at what it says. It says the woman then left her water pot. She left the bucket at the well because she needs it no more. She's now connected to the source. And she went on her way into the city and said to the men, come, see a man which told me all things that ever I did. Is not this the Christ? She left her bucket and now she became the source. She went into the city, and because the source of Jesus Christ was welling up on the inside, she was able to pour into all that she met. She was able to say, come see the Christ. Come meet the Messiah. Come meet the man who can change your life. And it's welling up on the inside, and she could have run through and through the city and never run out of something to put out, because on the inside there was a well. On the inside there was a limitless supply that came from God. But look at this. In verse 20, it says, she went on her way. Jesus was offering a what? Living water. Living water moves. Any ecosystem that thrives moves. There's a cycle, a water cycle, a cycle of animals living in any place or any ecosystem that is alive. Stagnant water brings about death. You can't thrive in stagnation. When you are stagnant, you become stale. She wept. She began to move. God has created all of humanity, all of the earth, everything that God created, He created it to move. Right now we are standing, but the earth is revolving. And even though the earth is revolving, it still is going around a sun. So the earth is spinning on an axle, but while it is spinning, it is still going around the sun. Everything God created, He created it to move. And if you're in a place of stagnation, then the next thing that happens is death. And tonight God is saying, get moving and keep moving. Living water requires you to move. You can't find a job, then keep moving. You can't find a wife, then keep moving. Don't become stagnant and sit in a place crying yourself to sleep every night, worried and procrastinating. That will bring you to your demise. It'll bring you to depression. It'll bring you to a place where you no longer have the strength to step forward into tomorrow. We gotta keep moving. Keep moving. You've been set back, keep moving. You've been pushed back, keep moving. Keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. If I can't stress it enough tonight, in order for living water, in order for living organisms, in order for you and I to survive, we gotta keep moving. Our economy might be getting worse and worse, but if we don't start moving, we'll go nowhere. Yeah, you're graduates with a degree. Yeah, you have a trade, and you've been laid off because the economy is going down. But if you don't find a way to keep moving, the economy isn't going to get better, and neither is your personal wealth going to grow. Yeah, you might be able to get paid the large sum that you were dreaming about, but work for the little that you can in this moment. Don't sit by, because when you sit by, you get stagnant, and now you have nothing to give to society. And if you can't give out, you won't be able to gain back. So keep moving. Everything God has made, He made it to move. So the Samaritan woman, she became the source. The Samaritan woman became the source. She was from a small city. She was insignificant in people's eyes. This Samaritan woman was from a place that people would just pass by and never pass through. She was from a race of people that was hated and despised. She was a woman that had 4 divorces, and the man she was with was not her own. But this woman became the source. Regardless of your background tonight, regardless of your past tonight, regardless of the mistakes that you've made, if this woman could have become the source because she said yes to Jesus coming into her life tonight, for every one of you that will say, yes, I want living water. I want my needs to continually be met. It doesn't matter where you've come from. If this woman could have become the source, so too can you. She became the source. The Bible tells us that we ought to be like a tree planted by living water, bearing fruit in every season. It means that when we're connected to Jesus, when our heart is broken, we still give love. When our children have turned their back on us and turned to drugs, we still speak hope. When our finances are empty, we still give, because we're able to bear fruit in every season. And seasons change. Life will never remain the same. You could be on a hilltop today or a valley tomorrow. It's going to change like a snap of a finger. But you got to be connected to living water so that you can bear forth fruit in every season. The Samaritan woman became the source. Tonight, God is saying, if you let me in, Jesus came for the Samaritan woman. And tonight, Jesus has come for you. And he's knocking. And he has living water to offer. He's saying, put down the bucket. Stop running to the well. Come to a source that never runs out. Get connected. Get connected to a source that will be able to provide in every season. So with all eyes closed and all heads bowed tonight,